You have done some pretty superhuman feats. And the last one you did was you actually... What are you saying? You swam around the UK.
I swam 1,780 miles all the way around the coast of Great Britain. It took 157 days. A lot of skin from around my neck and my tongue from chafing and saltwater exposure. For me, that was one event that felt cathartic afterwards. It was done for intrinsic reasons. It was this idea of, I think, afterwards, I just love the fact that I can be, an old man and I can go out to anywhere on the coast and go, swam past there. So, for me, it was the culmination of a lot of work and studies in sports science as well.
In this era of social media, are we in danger of doing things for extrinsic motivation rather than intrinsic motivation? Or is there even some benefit in that? Because even if that is going to stimulate you and inspire you to do something, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. So in terms of intrinsic motivation is when you are motivated for internal reasons. So the process is its own reward. When people say, why are you, it could be anything. Why are you knitting? Why do you like going walking in like the countryside? You go, because it just feels nice. That is intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is, why do you want to go and do that triathlon? And they say, because there's prize money. Why do you want to go and run up that mountain? Oh, because I want to take a selfie at the top. I want it for my Instagram profile. Nothing wrong with that, but these are extrinsic motivating factors. And I think consciously understanding which one motivates you is often the first key. I think, subconsciously, people aren't actually, they're not aware of it. So they're just training, they're plowing on. It's just like, well, hang on, like, what's the motivating factor here? Reason being, and there was, again, a study done with the US military, and they found that it was a huge study, and they found that those who were intrinsically motivated, there was a direct correlation between that and them higher achieving within the ranks of the US military, compared to those for external reasons who were maybe saying, oh, it's good money, or I look good in a uniform. There was those people who intrinsically motivated were saying, because I just want to do, I want to serve my country. I want to, my great granddad was in the military. It was those sorts of reasons.
I hope someone listens to this and goes, let me just examine the things that I do in my life. How many of them would I be happy doing if I didn't post about them on social media? Would I still do it? And there's nothing wrong with posting about what you're doing. Nope. We're trying to just tap into, what is your motivation? Is that the only motivation, or is there something else?
I love what you said there, actually, because certainly on the swim, people said to me, swimming for 157 days, 12 hours a day, how did you keep yourself motivated? And I think a lot of people just wanted that one line where I'd say, I did it for family and friends, or something like that. But the reality is you had to switch to have almost... like a split personality, in that sometimes I'd be extrinsically motivated. When coming into the Kyla Lochalsh, it was amazing. We just set the record for the world's longest stage swim. The media were there. They said some very nice things about me. I would be lying to you right now if I said that didn't motivate me extrinsically. Of course it did. However, in those moments across the Moray Firth where you are 60 miles from land, you cannot see the hand in front of your face. It's that dark. You're getting just hit in the face by jellyfish. Extrinsic motivation probably isn't enough. Knowing what pushes your buttons and what intrinsically motivates you is very powerful, and you just need to do that yourself as well. And I think knowing how to ask yourself, push your own buttons, what's motivating me today? But to just sort of sum up on that as well, because this might be something that a lot of people can relate to, but I think even body composition, body fat, training purely for aesthetics. So in this kind of social media driven world that we now live in, there's a lot of people who will train just for that selfie on the beach, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to acknowledge that's purely extrinsic. So once that picture's been taken, what's left? Are you still motivated?
Yeah.
If you have things that are intrinsically motivating you, for me, for instance, I like to keep my body fat quite low just because I'm quite a chunky runner, and I don't want to be putting 4 to 5 times my own body weight through each foot with every successive jump and run. So I try and keep lean for that reason. But the reason I also do that as well is because I want to enjoy running. I like the intrinsic feeling of running, and I wouldn't enjoy that as much if I was holding a lot of weight. So my body composition is a byproduct of being intrinsically motivated to enjoy running, but also I won't lie, it was quite nice, again, to be so honest and open, to be asked to do the cover of Men's Health. That was extrinsic, but I had both.
Yeah, you had both. And again, I love the way you put that, Ross. It's not about saying, we're all saints and we don't like putting up a good shot on Instagram, right? We're not. We're humans. We've all got an ego to some degree,
Absolutely.
right? Unless you're a Buddhist monk, in which you might have just about sorted out your ego. But do you know what I mean? It's not. I don't think we're here to say, don't do that. That's fine, but just figure out what it is. When you are putting your body under pressure, when you're on that boat, when you're swimming, were there some days where you thought, I'm not going in there? I just can't do it. I just want to stay here. I want to sleep. I just can't get in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, for me, every single tide, that idea of central governor theory, that we're more powerful than our own mind allows us to believe. My mind was playing all sorts of tricks on me, saying, stay in bed, have a rest day today, Ross. Oh.
So how did you motivate yourself? Was it you, or was there someone, sometimes was it your team? Did some of them say, come on, Ross, you can do this, you've got this? I mean, how did that go down, basically?
Yeah, I think for one of the things that always worked for me was the fact that I said, I am not stepping foot on land until I have finished this. And I was absolutely like, that's not negotiable.
Naive enough to start, stubborn enough to finish.
Wrong, absolutely. Absolutely. So then, when you have made that absolutely infallible law, and you said, that's how this finishes. It finishes with me being pulled out of the water against my own will, or I walk onto Margate Beach successful. Then any question you ask yourself, that when your mind starts playing tricks and goes, maybe you should have a rest day today, maybe your tongue's falling apart, maybe you should miss this tide, maybe it's a little bit ropey outside, we're swimming in 40 knots of wind, is that safe? The answer's always swim. Always, because ultimately you're not going to get back to Margate otherwise, so that for me, it was like every question that was thrown up was completely irrelevant when you think about it in cold, hard logic. And I think that's sometimes the same, that again, when you wake up in the morning on a Sunday and you said, I said I was going to go on for a run today, but I think, my knees are feeling a little, knees are bad. Maybe I should rest day. I should have another rest day. Yeah. It's like, no. Again, this idea of that, I was fortunate enough to learn from the Royal Marines that they said, Ross, when you are in a 30-mile yomp with like 50 kg on your backpack, your cognitive clarity is that of a 5-year-old. When you are sleep deprived, tired, had a hard week at work, and all of a sudden someone's saying to you, remember that session you said you were going to do on Sunday? Know that it's fine that you are functioning with the cognitive clarity of a 5-year-old. And this was one thing that always stuck me with the Royal Marines. As a sports scientist, they said, Ross, you're a sports scientist, so you are used to performing at your best when you feel at your best. We're Royal Marines. We're used to performing at our best when we feel at our worst.
What about someone who's listening to this who is relatively inactive, right? So they live in a city, they want to get healthier, that they've started listening to this podcast for whatever reason, that they want some inspiration to get going. And so they think, well, there's no way I can do a swim run. I barely go out. I don't go to the gym. I don't do much. Where can they start, and how can they apply this in their life?
Yeah, I love that question for two reasons. Number one is because I think too often we are heavily marketed, the gym or certain sports, or they'll say, oh, this is the best way to lose weight, and it's just like no. You have to start looking at behavioral science. Only just now we're understanding adherence. So are you actually going to adhere to this way of life? Again, to go off on a slight tangent, International Journal of Obesity 2008, they did a huge meta study, so a study of thousands of studies, and they wanted to know what the best diet was for fat loss. Everyone was sitting there going, well, this is amazing. They were, on the edge of their seats thinking, oh my God, is it keto? Is it Atkins? Is it South Beach? What is it? And they said, after analysing all of these studies, we have found, and everyone's on the tenterhooks on the edge of their seats, that we have found that weight loss was highest in those most adherent. And they went, what? And they were like, yeah. The diet doesn't matter. Sticking to it does. And they were like, Oh, so there was this idea that, okay, so in terms of when you are completely sedentary and you're just setting out, whether it's a diet plan or a workout plan, look at adherence. Are you actually going to enjoy this? Are you going to be motivated for intrinsic reasons? Or are you saying, I want to do a triathlon because you get a nice medal at the end? That's probably not the right answer. Do you know what I mean? Pick something that you intrinsically like. What are you going to be able to adhere to? I think for some people, if they're like, I used to play tennis as a kid, I've not done it in ages. Cool, then go down your local tennis club. I used to swim, but I've not done it in ages. Cool, then dust off those goggles and get in. I would love it if in a few weeks, months, a year, it doesn't matter, if people message us on social media and say, do you know what, guys? I did it, intrinsically motivated, and it just for cathartic reasons, for this idea of sporting spirituality that people will go, I did it. I ran, swam, cycled, rode. Doesn't matter what it is, that will be amazing.
Really hope you enjoyed that conversation. Please do think about one thing that you can take and apply into your life. Inspiration is not enough, you need to take action. If you did enjoy that, please do press subscribe, hit that notification bell, and why not check out this conversation that I picked out that acts as the perfect follow-up.